One of the best parts of Mortal Shell 2 is the ability to craft truly overpowered character builds. Through a combination of shell skills, weapon choice, Tarstones, and passive items, we can form a nearly unstoppable playstyle to destroy our enemies. All of that will be covered in this guide, and as usual, useful timestamps can be found in the video description. The shell we will be using for this build is Tiel, which is good as we can unlock it almost immediately after completing the game's prologue. We'll first make our way to the roof of Mire Keep. Once there, we can use the northern launcher to reach the Widow's Overlook beacon, which is automatically unlocked. After landing, we can move east towards the map marker for Tiel. We should grab the Revered Gland along the way, as it can be used to upgrade our heal, the Mether's Pulse. Keep an eye out for similar looking chalices while exploring, as they will either have a Revered Gland or Synaptic Vessel. The glands can be used at a beacon to upgrade the capacity of our heal, while the vessels can be used to upgrade the efficiency or amount that we heal. That aside, we can move through a small gateway near the map for this area to find the final resting place of Tiel. Inhabiting the shell will trigger a memory in which we need to first find a way inside a nearby hut, then drink a potion, and finally threaten the apothecary that stumbles upon us. Tiel's main ability is to become invisible and perform a shadow strike on unsuspecting enemies. We'll go into more detail on how to incorporate his unique abilities into our build as we craft it further. For now, let's move north to discover the Mushroom Village beacon, as we will need to return to it in a few moments. In order to unlock the full capabilities of Tiel, we will need to speak with the Shell Keeper in Mire Keep and invest glimpse into the specific shell. This will make the shell better overall and give us access to more advanced shell skill tiers. Glimpses are mainly obtained by cleansing beacons found throughout the open world, particularly those with bosses. To actually unlock the shell skills, we will then need shell points, which are unlocked by leveling up our main character with Gloom. This guide includes a section at the end where we will be able to farm a lot of Gloom fairly quickly to level up fast. Early on, while we are lower on available points, I recommend investing in the first tiers of Deathmark and Escalation, as both increase the effectiveness of Tiel's Shadow Strike. Now, we will need a strong weapon to prop up our build, and my personal favorite is the Great Martyr's Blade. This is mainly because it has a sprinting heavy attack that gives immunity to all damage and grabs while it's being executed. Before we can get the blade, we will need to unlock Mether's Breath. I was able to do this after collecting 10 OVA from cleansing various beacons in the open world, but I've seen sources stating that you can get it after collecting as few as 8 OVA. Once we have enough, we just need to interact with the Gloom Siphon in Mire Keep. Mether's Breath also unlocks the ability to fast travel between beacons. The closest beacon to the Great Martyr's Blade is Gloomshade Grove. I'll be showing the entire path I took to reach this beacon, starting from the Mushroom Village beacon, which we unlocked just a few moments ago. Feel free to skip ahead with the timestamps to whichever closest beacon you already have unlocked. Once we are at the Mushroom Village beacon, we'll move northwest towards the dungeon where the axe and dagger are found. To the right of that dungeon's entrance is a corruption that we can cleanse with Mether's Breath. Launching up into Blackridge Hamlet, we will watch out for the explosive jars as we move to interact with a well, which will bring us to the Holding Cells dungeon. Feel free to explore this dungeon fully on your own, but for the purposes of this guide, I'll just be showing the path that I took to reach the next checkpoint or beacon. For that, we will want to move forward, staying up along the top level and to the right side as much as we can. This will bring us to a stone corridor with a Templar-looking knight. There's a plate hidden behind wooden crates to the right of the knight, which we will need to press. We can then move out to the wooden walkway through one of the gates that the plate opened, and through a second opened gate to the right and a short distance ahead. Be sure to grab the revered gland here before breaking through some wooden crates and continuing through the stone corridor. Watch out for the pressure plates on the ground near a group of weak enemies, as they trigger arrow traps when activated. The enemies can also activate these traps, so it's best to move quickly. At the end of this hall is an illusory wall that we can attack our way through to open a final corridor. Moving past the enemies here will bring us to a new well to exit from, placing us in an entirely new area of the open world. The dungeon with our desired weapon is nearby. However, let's make a quick detour to activate a nearby beacon for Gloomshade Grove, so that we don't have to run through that whole path again if we die in the final dungeon. The Gloomshade Grove beacon is located on a secluded ledge, just beyond a pack of Grisha hunters. From the Gloomshade Grove beacon, we will backtrack to the water well that we recently emerged from. A short distance up to the right from that well is the entrance to the Martyr's prison. After entering, we will need to move through and interact with a small bag on a table. This will bring us to a prison cell. We can then break out and clear any enemies before breaking into a new prison cell where we need to press a plate. This will open the chamber of our final challenge to get the blade. There are 4 abominations in the final chamber, 3 lanky and 1 big. My strategy was to quickly eliminate one of the 3 lanky enemies as quickly as possible, then do my best to avoid the big enemy's devastating rolling attack while I cleaned up the other 2 lanky enemies. The big guy is much easier to handle one-on-one. We don't want to attack it while its thorns are exposed. However, we can do one attack, then back up for the thorns, and attack again once they retract. Rinse and repeat this for a lot of easy damage. It will occasionally perform a rolling attack towards us, but this is telegraphed clearly and fairly easy to avoid if we don't overcommit to attacking. Once all enemies are defeated, a small treasure room will open up where we can claim the Great Martyr's Blade. It was already upgraded to level 4 when I picked it up. We can then interact with a nearby node to exit the dungeon. As mentioned earlier, the main attack we will be utilizing with the Great Martyr's Blade is the Sprinting Heavy attack. That's because it gives us full immunity to damage and grab attacks while it's being executed, which is just super broken. If we go to our controller or input settings and bind the forward movement input to the sprint hold binding, it basically gives us auto sprint whenever running forward, making it much easier to perform this move consistently. In order to upgrade our blade further, increasing its damage, we will need to make sure that we have the Muradean Actuator. This is obtained at the village outskirts beacon in the prologue section of the game. If you didn't grab it then, just fast travel to the beacon and enter it, then open the first chest inside. We can then take the actuator to Franz near the Tarforge in Mire Keep. He will install it on the Tarforge, unlocking the ability to upgrade our melee weapons with a combination of coin and crafting materials. The crafting materials, an example being laterite, are found throughout the open world. We'll need to make sure we return to the Tarforge over the course of our playthrough as we collect more gold and materials to upgrade the blade to higher and higher levels. Next, let's get a key Tarstone to enhance our blade with elemental damage. For that, we will return to the Gloomshade Grove beacon that we unlocked earlier and move southwest. This will bring us to a series of transporters that ultimately lead to the outskirts of Nochte beacon. After discovering the beacon, we can loop around the nearby structure to grab the area map, then return to the beacon. From the outskirts of Nochte, we will need to move towards the Corrupted Gate in the ruins of Nochte. Our ultimate destination is the Noctean Gate Beacon. To get the Tarstone we're after, we will then need to cleanse the Noctean Gate Beacon. There are several enemies that we will have to fight through to reach the final boss chamber of this beacon, which will give us some practice at utilizing the sprinting heavy attack. The final boss of the beacon, Vrago Solokar Champion, is extremely aggressive. It took me a few tries to finally defeat them, and I was only able to do so after getting into a good rhythm of using the sprint heavy attack, followed by moving away and creating distance, then performing the sprint heavy attack again. Rinse and repeat. You can also throw in a few shadow strikes here and there to increase overall damage output. Defeating Vrago will get us the Voltaic Crown Tarstone. This Tarstone can only be utilized with the Great Martyr's Blade, and may be activated to infuse the blade with lightning. The real key to making this Tarstone shine is to fully level and upgrade it, which will make the infusion permanently active. Let's go ahead and collect the nearby Ova, return to the beacon, and then cover how to upgrade our Tarstones. We'll need to start by obtaining the Etching needles for the Tarforge. To do that, we'll start from the Mushroom Village beacon and move towards the nearby Corrupted Gate. To unlock the gate, we will need to cleanse the Mushroom Village Gate beacon, which I believe has a boss inside. Once we've done that, we can enter the nearby gate, which leads into the unmapped Sunken Village. Again, there's no map to reference here, so I'll just be moving through all beacons to reach the Etching needles. The first of these beacons is the Seeping Mire. Feel free to cleanse the beacon, then start moving towards the next beacon for Sunken Village. We can cleanse that beacon, then move across the nearby bridge to face off with a relatively easy boss. Once they're defeated, we can move through the nearby door and across one more bridge. There is a major boss further ahead, but for our purposes, we just need to open the chest found on the other side of the bridge, which contains the Etching needles. We can then take these to Franz at the Tarforge, which will unlock the ability to upgrade Tarstones. Tarstones earn experience if they are equipped when we defeat enemies. Once they accumulate 10,000 experience, they can be upgraded to level 2 at the Tarforge for 100 gold, and doing this will also get us 1 Tarcore. It's only after we upgrade them to level 2 that they can begin accumulating experience for level 3, which requires 20,000 experience. At that point, we will need 150 coin and 6 Tarcore to upgrade them to level 3. What this means is that we can only get 1 level 3 Tarstone for every 6 Tarstones that we upgrade to level 2. So we want to be very selective in choosing which Tarstones we upgrade to level 3. As far as I'm concerned, only the elemental infusion Tarstones like the Voltaic Crown are truly worth the level 3 upgrade. That is because it fundamentally changes the way the Tarstone works. Instead of having to spend time and resolve to infuse our weapon with the element from the Tarstone and just for a limited amount of time, it will just be permanently and constantly active on the weapon once the Tarstone is upgraded to level 3. It makes the elemental infusion Tarstones go from being practically useless to completely indispensable. Alright, this next Tarstone that we can get will unlock an ultimate attack for our Martyr's Blade. It isn't really necessary for the build, but I wanted to include it because it just looks cool. We will need to start at the Noctean gate beacon, which we already cleansed earlier, and then enter the gate. This will bring us to an unmapped area, and we'll need to travel to a couple of beacons. The first one is for the Slumwater drain. After pulling a lever to open a gate, we'll need to head up a staircase and break through some crates to find a marked wall. This wall will disappear when attacked, revealing a passageway into the Slumwater drain. We can then move down to the right to find another drain that we can squeeze through to reach our first beacon. Feel free to cleanse the Slumwater drain beacon and be sure to look out for the synaptic vessel that can be found therein. Then move back out the drain and up the stairs. Shoot the button on the wall with a ranged weapon to open the gate ahead, then move down the ensuing corridor. The lift will take us up to a boss fight, and you can pause now if you want to fight it without spoilers. Tishina's Confessor is, in my opinion, not as challenging as Rago, which we defeated earlier for the Voltaic Crown. She is less aggressive, making it much easier to perform a sprinting heavy attack, followed by a shadow strike, and then a quick disengagement before repeating the process over again. Defeating Tishina will get us the Confessor's Keepsake Tarstone, and it's not a necessary part of this build. Now there are two transporters out of this boss arena. The first goes to the Executioner's Pulpit beacon, and we will definitely want to activate this and rest at it first. We can cleanse it if we want, but to get the Tarstone we're after, we will need to move back through the boss arena we just cleared and to a new tower on the other side. There's a chest we can open for the Rupturing Stone, and we have the option of summoning an NPC ally for the upcoming boss fight. This uses the limited resource of Glimpse though, so I would advise against it. Dropping down into the pit will initiate the boss fight, and you can pause now if you want to fight it blind. For everyone else, the Nameless Captive is probably the most difficult of the bosses on the north side of the map. It's extremely aggressive, and this can make it difficult to create the required distance for successful sprint heavy attacks. I ended up using a combination of the tried and true playstyle for this build, along with well-timed parrying with the Infinite Seal. The fight really heats up after we get the boss down to around 60% health. At that point, the captive will begin performing hyper-aggressive and fast-spinning attacks, as well as the occasional groin kick that basically spells game over if we are unable to avoid it. Only learning the timing of its various attacks and getting good will see us to the end of it. I should also say that we can still get a lot stronger with this build without fighting this boss, if we want to just save it for later. I reckon that it will be significantly easier to fight and defeat once we are at full power. Defeating the Nameless Captive will get us the Captive Scabstone, which can be equipped only to the Martyr's Blade, and unlocks an ultimate move. It's very expensive on resolve and very flashy, but ultimately not necessary for taking on most challenges. Before we leave, we can activate the Captive's End beacon and cleanse it to get a huge bundle of OVA for the Mether. Now we are getting to the final component of this OP build, which is to farm a huge number of Grisha Remnants, as well as Gloom for leveling up. This can be done by quickly running through the secret Desolate Keep dungeon in Mire Keep to defeat 2 key enemies over and over again. Starting from the Mire Keep beacon, we can run into the cavern with the training area and dash over the brazier/ledge to save on some time. The first time we do this, we will need to attack a marked wall to dispel it. Once that's done, we can interact with the Chalice or commune with Chaos to enter the Desolate Keep. We'll then want to beeline it through this dungeon, running past as many enemies as we can. You can also clear the dungeon on your own at some point, but that will take way too long for our farming purposes. Instead, we will pretty much avoid all enemies until we reach the large mantis-like enemy in the last half of the dungeon. We can quickly dispatch this opponent for just over 2,000 Gloom. We'll be able to do this faster and more easily as we level up our character, weapons, and Tarstones. Now to the right of the Mantis enemy is a false wall that will lower when approached, revealing a hidden path that leads out to a courtyard. A Grisha can be found there, and defeating it will reward us with a Grisha Remnant and another 1,000 or so Gloom. Grisha are fairly tough, but I found the sprint heavy attack tactic with the Martyr's Blade to be super effective against it. If you are unfamiliar with the Grisha Remnant item, it can be equipped in the passive item slot to make all melee attacks have a chance of summoning a Phantom Grisha to our side temporarily. Once we are fully familiarized with it, which happens after obtaining 3 Grisha Remnants, we see that the chance to summon a Grisha becomes proportional to the number of Remnants found, so the more the better. Almost every Grisha found in this game can only be defeated once and will not respawn thereafter, so Grisha Remnants seem limited. However, at least at the time of publishing this video, the Grisha in the Desolate Keep dungeon does respawn. All we need to do is exit the game after defeating the Grisha, then run back from the starting point of the Marrow Keep beacon. We can do this as many times as we want to farm a truly absurd amount of Grisha Remnants and Gloom along with it. We can also switch out Tarstones while doing this farm to level as many of them to level 2 as possible, which will get us plenty of Tarcores for upgrading important Tarstones to level 3. I got a bit carried away and farmed a total of over 100 Grisha Remnants with this method. At that point, I was so leveled up that I could wipe the floor with both the Grisha and the Mantis enemy leading up to it. Also, as can be seen in this gameplay, I am summoning Grisha Phantoms with almost every single attack. They deal a ton of damage and knock enemies away, creating the necessary distance for me to perform these sprint heavy attacks that makes the Martyr's Blade so strong. Here at the end, I want to quickly cover some of my favorite shell skills for TL once we have leveled up a lot and have plenty of shell points to work with. I think fully upgraded Escalation and Deathmark are a must, along with at least 1 or 2 ranks in Poison Burst. This makes Shadow Strike pretty devastating. After that, things get a little more nuanced. You can start to allocate shell points based on what challenge you are facing or what playstyle suits you best. Investing more into lethality will allow us to chain Shadow Strikes on weaker and easily defeated enemies. Critical Role is good to run when facing very tough bosses or tanky enemies, where the goal of using Shadow Strike is to empower our next sprinting heavy attack. Ambush makes all attacks on the backs of enemies far more destructive, and fully investing into Poison Burst will make poisonous clouds burst from the enemies that we use Shadow Strike on, further increasing the damage that it can dish out. My favorite part about this build is that all of its components can be obtained entirely in the top half of the map, where the challenge is much lower. This will then prepare us to tackle the more daunting south half of the world map once we are ready. If you have any questions on what was covered in this guide, you can reach out to me in the comments where I will do my best to help. If you want to see more great content, you can head over to my channel, and if you're new, consider subscribing. You're helping me feed my cats, Marshmallow, and Coco. Have a great day if you're here today, have a great Thursday, and a great weekend, and as always, thanks for watching.